Hello, folks. I'm David, and this is From the Hip podcast. As always, we're shooting in a beautiful Say What podcast studio and sponsored by the Covenant Studios. I got a treat today. I got the beautiful Sherry back for more, and she brought in her compadre, Randy, and they are both with Sensual Models. So Sherry, introduce yourself again, and then Walt, you can introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Sherry.
I'm not Walt, but
This is Randy, not Walt, but I'm Sherry, and I am with Sinsual Magazine. And we are here today to talk about the magazine and just talk about anything else random.
All right, and Randy?
I'm Randy Newby. I own Sinsual Magazine. And like Sherry said, we're going to be talking a little bit about the magazine and how it came to be.
Well, let me ask you, what caused you to start a magazine?
Well, honestly, David, I always wanted to have one.
They sell them.
Yeah, they do. They tend to. You know, print has definitely gone away over the years. I mean, it's gotten, kind of away. But there is a surge and a comeback now. People actually, like models, or even myself, somebody actually wants to, is it okay if I hold it up?
Yeah.
Actually hold a magazine. It's one thing to be digital, whatever, online, but that's just online. You can't show this to somebody. If somebody comes to your house or something, you can't really show it. Of course, here I'm showing y'all this, and here's the beautiful Sherry on the cover, which is just, by the way, this magazine sold a lot better than some of my others. I don't mind saying. Plus, we had over 2,100 views on this magazine. And I'm sure it has a lot to do with Sherry,
Well, your first publication was what, December?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're only 3 months old right now?
Yeah, we just, matter of fact, we're just finishing the March issue. It'll be out next Friday.
Will Sherry be in March?
No,
That's a shame.
Yeah, I know, really. She needs to be in all of them.
I was just in January, so,
Yeah, she's going to be on others, though. I'll let a little secret out that we're going to do. Sherry and I have talked about it with Glenn also. We're going to do an upcoming issue, and it's going to be we haven't come up with the name yet, but Ladies of Rock type thing.
Okay.
And it's a whole lot of people she knows. Plus, the April cover is a lady from Helsinki, Finland, and her name is Heidi Runberg. That's where she lives, in Helsinki. But she is a rock singer also. And she has made a few albums, and so this I got to thinking about this and what Sherry does with her group,
Eva.
Yeah. And I know they're a metal, what do y'all call that, metal thrash?
It's a heavy
used to
metal
be,
goth band.
Goth? Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyway, I don't want to sound like I'm doing the interview.
No, it's okay.
But that's something we're going to be doing upcoming soon. And something I wanted to mention also is, like I said, I own the magazine, but Glenn Wilson, who's doing your sound, is going to be publishing the magazine. He's going to be putting it together for us.
And that's your January magazine?
Yeah, this is January. I just brought this because Sherry's here,
Well, what I was going to say was that was shot at the Covenant Studio, wasn't it?
Well, it was.
Yes.
As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
there's a baby grand piano sitting right back behind her, if I remember right.
That's what it looks like. But who knows there's a piano with Sherry on there, right?
Yeah, I was saying, is there a piano there? Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, we did shoot it at Covenant. And, real quickly, David, you and I have been friends for a number of years now. And when we had Glad Models Agency, we did all our shooting here.
Right.
With y'all, Walt and I, And by the way, it's a great studio.
Well, thank you.
I mean, not just because we're doing this, but because it is,
We've been around a long time.
Well, you have. But we had you also, we do a spotlight each month of different studios. And we had y'all for December.
Thank
in
you.
the December issue. And we also do your Say What it is Say What, right?
Correct.
Okay. Say What podcast. is monthly in the magazine. So if anybody is wanting to do a podcast with David, you can go in there and look at it, but you got to buy it first so you can do that.
You don't have to do it with me. We'll provide the space, and you can do the podcast. We'll just facilitate it for you.
Yeah, well, that's true. But anyway, so that's, like I said, I always wanted, kind of getting back on the magazine, I always wanted to have one of my own, something that I did and something that I could hold, or show people when they come over.
Now, you know that you and I are doing all the talking. And Sherry's the only one anybody wants to see here.
Well, that's true.
No,
I figured, right after David, we're talking, but they're looking at Sherry.
I'm sure they are.
They're probably going, what did he say? And go, who cares?
I'm having a hard time focusing on you when you're talking and not looking at her.
Yeah.
But
anyway, so that's why I started the
They're
magazine.
embarrassing me.
And we're going to be doing it every month. And I'm looking forward to doing this for quite a few years, or as long as we can. I hope so. And Sherry is going to grace many covers, and she'll be in quite a few of the magazines.
I would like to step in and say some things. I have a lot of friends who are very beautiful women, and they're a little insecure here or there. And, I keep trying to tell them that, there's every single girl has something that is attractive about them. So, and every man likes something different. Not every man is a boob man. Not every man is a butt man. So I would like to encourage a lot of those women that think that they can't do it, to contact me and, let's talk and send me some samples. Because I've seen some women that, may just be like the girl next door. And then you put them behind the camera and they turn into a supermodel, So I would like to encourage a lot of the girls to get with it, to do some stuff like that. It helps you it helps your self-esteem, and like I said, there's different tastes for everyone. So I would like to encourage a lot of the women to get in touch with us and get involved in the magazine. It's
funny you mentioned that.
awesome.
One of the most beautiful women we have ever had in the studio. Bar none. I mean, the most beautiful. She was a client for Jeffrey Harden, a friend of mine. And after the shoot, Jeff was telling me how insecure she was in herself and thought she looked terrible. And then when she came back for the reveal session to see her images, she brought her boyfriend with her. And he was just amazed at how beautiful the images were.
Yeah.
And she was crying the whole time because she thought she looked so ugly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it happens. I mean, I don't care who you are, how many magazines you've done, whatever. All of us women have some insecurities. That's just who we are. We all are. But when you when you have really good photographers like Glenn, that can help you and show you, like, stop right there, don't move, that's it, hold that position or whatever, because we don't know, we'll just go in there and start doing stuff. But, that's the one thing I like about working with Glenn is because, and we talked about this before, he may have me stand in one position for 20 minutes, and like I'm cramping, my leg is cramping or something. But, just one tilt of the head or, one move of the eyes or whatever can change the whole picture.
Well, he's a scientist, though. That's why he does that.
But he's also a visionary person, so he can see, like, this is what's going to look good. So you might not do 500 pictures with him, but he does get the best ones, because he takes longer with each picture.
I've never known him to shoot less than 3,000.
Yeah. Yeah. He does like to shoot a lot, but
he does trigger that camera a lot.
He does. But and back to the studio here, this is one of I've shot in a lot of different places and studios, and but this is one of the safest and most secure places that I've ever shot at.
Well,
so
thank you.
This is definitely my favorite. I love shooting here because like. Now I'm comfortable with all the photographers that shoot here, and I've shot with, I think, every photographer that shoots here.
Well, I don't know about that.
It's just about, but yeah, it's very comfortable, and the girls can feel safe here, like. And that's very important because a lot of girls don't want to do photo shoots too because they're just unsure.
Well, let's talk about the magazine, though. Enough about the studio. Everybody knows how great it is.
It is.
What possessed you to do the magazine?
Actually, Randy approached me and asked me, what I thought about the magazine, and I do all my history before I do any kind of shoot. I looked through the magazine. I looked through a lot of the things he had on social media, and I felt like it was a little bit more classy, of upper scale magazine, and that's what I'm totally into. So I felt like it was something that fit what I was comfortable with, and then once I got into it, and I got a lot of phone calls, got a lot of text messages, instant messages, and people really responded well to this magazine. So I love it. I think it's great. I think the name is great. I'm looking at it right now. Sensual, I think that's great because that's what it's all about, is us women being sensual. I love that it's not, it doesn't have any negative qualities as far as what we feel comfortable shooting. It's not, and pardon the French, but, I'll just say it's not spread eagle,
Right.
it's not dirty. It's very classy, very tasteful. So it's actually a privilege to be in the magazine. It doesn't feel like it's like a job or anything, and I think that's the goal that ultimately we all want to go towards with the magazine is keeping it classy, and having sexy, sensual women that don't have to be, nude or spread eagle and all.
Were you surprised that Randy asked you to be in it since you're not 21 years old?
Yes, I definitely was. And that's another thing I like to talk about is that with my age, I am getting older, so to be able to still do magazines, and photo shoots, podcasts, everything, is a big ego booster for me because I've done it my whole life, and now I'm getting older, and I'm like, am I going to be able to do this? And how much longer am I going to be able to do this?
As long as you won't.
And so, and I'm enjoying that aspect of being able to still continue to do it at my age, 'cause
One thing, let me jump in a second, talking about age. And this is something that I like to stress, is that what you brought up earlier, that doesn't matter how old you are, you can model, you can do this. And I really like to see what we call mature, classic women do this. Young girls, it's great. No, I don't want to say, don't get me wrong, we want young models also.
right.
But I'm looking for models that are like, 35 and up also,
Right.
That, and like Sherry said, there's a lot of women think, oh, I can never do this. Well, yeah, you really can.
Yeah, you
know?
can.
And we can make you how you want to look, and we're going to make you feel good. Anyway, so.
And that has a lot to do with it, too, is like your photographer. Like you've got to feel comfortable with your photographer, too.
Right.
And that's the one thing I love about Glenn is it's, he does make you feel comfortable. He doesn't make it feel creepy or dirty or anything. It just, everything is upscale, And like Randy said, and I really want to touch on that, is the older girls, every girl that I talked to that was older was like, I'm too old for that. And I'm like, no, you're not. You don't even know how old I am because I don't tell anyone.
I noticed that.
So I never tell my age. That's one secret. But, I am older. And so I would like to encourage a lot of older women to do that. It makes them feel good. It makes them feel confident. And to be honest, I know it's crazy to say this, but, sometimes it actually helps your marriage too. Because for one, I know my husband, he loves bragging to his friends that his wife is in another magazine. He's like, hey, that's my cover girl. So I know that the men would like it, like their husbands would probably like it, unless they're just real insecure men. And, of course,
And there's a bunch of those
you're
out
always
there.
going to run into that. But I do like the fact that, that it's paperback. And I would love to bring back vinyl records, which is coming back. And I love the fact that we're bringing back paper. Because like you said, like in the old Playboy days, I remember stumbling upon my dad's, stash of Playboy magazines. And then as I got older and my roommates, there was 5 of us girls that lived together. And they were all doing Playboy lingerie. And so I got introduced to Playboy lingerie, and I love the fact that I still have those magazines of my friends. You know, like digitally, would those have gone away? Would we have lost the files?
You lost them.
Who knows, you know? But I love the fact that I can go back and go, oh my gosh, these girls were my friends back in the 90s. They were doing Playboy, you know, and I can show it to people. So I love the fact that we're bringing paper back.
Well, you need to call them and have them come look at Sensual Magazine.
You know, and that is actually in the works. I've contacted a couple already, and you know they're interested. So, but like me, they're getting older, you know, and so that was the first thing that they said was, you know, I don't know, am I too old to do this now? I'm like, heck no, you're not too old to do it. You know, bring it back because they're still sexy, you know. So.
Well, you had mentioned bringing back paper. Back when I started photography, we didn't have digital.
Right.
It was just print. And I hate digital. There's something to holding that memory.
I know. I know. You know, and that's another thing is that.
Hanging up on the wall.
Yeah, and the world is just changing so fast, you know, and I mean, it scares me for my kids, my grandkids, you know, it scares me how fast the world is changing. And, you know, and I love the fact that we can at least be a part of history and bring back those things, you know, and I have a big stack of vinyl now, you know, I bought a record player and, you know, I'm heavy into the vinyl and I do like things that you can keep. Now, don't get me wrong, digital's great for the younger, you know, the younger.
Well, the convenience is nice.
Yeah, and, you know, because like he said, like, when somebody comes over to your house, you can always pull up the magazine. You might just be sitting there with your cell phone because that's what all the younger kids are doing nowadays.
Right.
I have to drag them away. I have to drag my grandkids away from their cell phones just to eat. So, you know, it's nice to be able to have the digital when someone comes and go, hey, look what I did, and pull, you know, swipe through, and here it is on the phone. Here it is right here. But it's also nice to have.
Hand it to them.
And my husband has in his man cave, he has every edition of every magazine I've ever done. And he has my original calendar I did back in 1998 or, you know, 90s. Original calendar I did when I was dancing at New Orleans Nights.
Gee.
And that's before it even went to Rick's Cabaret. And so he waited in line an hour just to get me to autograph my first calendar. So,
Even at home, after you were married, you made him wait in line to sign
oh, no,
it?
we weren't married. This was a long time ago.
Okay.
He was a customer at the club, and he had me sign that. And I say 90s, but I'm thinking it's more like 80s because it was a long time ago.
Yeah. Well,
And
Careful,
he still has
careful.
that calendar.
Yeah, be careful.
I'm going to
Careful,
date
careful.
myself here if I don't shut up. Because I'm only 21.
Yeah,
So,
I
you
know.
know, it's kind of hard to figure out. But, yeah, I'm glad to be a part of the magazine. I love it. And one of the biggest things for me was bringing back something, like you said, something people can hold on to and keep and, you know, put in a box, put in the attic after you're, you know, old and be able to pull that out one day, you know, and when I'm like 90, I'll be pulling it out and going, look what I did, you know,
Yeah.
check it out. This is what I did when I was younger, you know.
Grandkids say, look at Granny.
It's already, you know, with the grandkids, I have to be because they're on the internet now. And so I have to be very careful with social media because, you know, especially with my one grandson, he's very nosy. And he'll just see a picture of me like somewhat like this, but, you know, kind of not, even if I'm wearing a bikini top. He's like, Mima, put your clothes on. You know, so he's the one that I have to watch out for. But and that's another thing about having paperback. You know, I don't have to worry about that, about the kids being able to just pull it up.
Look, you know what other paper we need to bring back?
The newspaper.
Maps.
Maps. Oh, so I was at
Yes.
AAA the other day, actually, which, by the way, I'm not trying to pull a plug for AAA, but I didn't know that AAA did homeowners insurance. And they were the only place that would write insurance in my neighborhood. And
Really?
so, yeah, because we had a freeze and then we had a tornado and we had to do 2 claims within a year, so no one would touch us. And so I was uninsured for a whole year. And I was talking to my AAA agent about my car insurance. He's like, we do homeowners insurance too. So I was sitting at AAA, and we were talking about my bill, I'm always trying to get a better deal on my bill. And they had at the desk when I was leaving, they had a whole stack of Atlas maps, the original old big
Really?
Atlas maps. And she's like, you can have a couple of those. So I took a stack. So I'll bring you one the next time I come. But I just wanted that to hold on to, because I opened it up and there was a map of everything in it, and I loved that.
I wanted to say something real quickly, if you don't mind. Excuse me a second. I saw an interview a few years ago, with Paul McCartney. And he was talking about, he was on, I can't remember what show it was, Letterman or whoever. But anyway, whoever the host was, he pulled up on his iPad phone, and he said, well, look at all the covers you've been on a Rolling Stone. And McCartney reached behind him, and he said he picked up a Rolling Stone that he brought, and he said, this is what I'm on. He said, I can open this. And that's what he said. He said, I can open this, and there I am. I said, you can't open that. That's just a cover on on your phone, And real quickly, when you were talking about things of this nature, coming back vinyl. Another thing with Paul McCartney, he was in an awards thing, and he said, I got this tonight, and it was like a gold CD type thing, and he held up his gold record when he was with the Beatles, and he said, but this looks better.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
A big gold album, and here's this little CD thing, So, there is something to bringing back what we used to have.
Yeah, there is, and it's just a part of our history. And I worry today that we're getting farther away from history. And I like stuff that can take me back to where I was when I was younger, because I feel like the world is evolving too fast.
Well, I know a lot of photographers that they haven't moved back to, but they're shooting film also.
Yes.
Because you get a different result. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of photographers that are bringing back prints.
Yes.
Because there's just something about that print on the wall.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I've got 2 large prints in the office. I did a TFP, which means trade for print.
Okay.
Okay? But everybody's just trading for digital images.
Right.
And so I started doing trade for print and actually printing images for the models. That was very popular, except for 2 models. They haven't come by and picked theirs up yet. But I've got a 20 by 30 and a 20 by 24.
I love that. In fact, I don't know where it went, but Walt actually brought one in earlier of this, of the cover of this. He gave me a poster, so...
I've got it over there because I didn't want us spilling something on the table of it.
And I loved it. I love that because I can't wait to get home and give it to my husband. Like, here you go.
Will you autograph it for him?
Yeah, I'll write like, I love you.
Speaking of digital, in today's world, you never know what's going to happen. What if we lost cell service for a week? Some people couldn't get to work because they wouldn't know how to get there without their GPS.
You're absolutely right. I'm one of those people.
You're one of those people?
Now. It's just, and it's one of those things where you can put me in a closet and I will not know how to get out. I don't know east, north, west, south. I'm terrible at that.
Up, down?
Well, I could do up, down, but
Well, that's part of the battle.
But I'm terrible at directions, and sometimes I'll turn that GPS on because it gives me a time at the bottom of arrival, and then it'll also show me where there's traffic.
Right.
So I can avoid it, and that's really the reason I use it. But the bad part is you start getting addicted to that, and then if you don't have that GPS, you're not going to know how to get around anymore. And we just had this conversation the other day. It's funny because a couple of my girlfriends were talking about, we said, what would happen if we lost our cell phone and we wouldn't even know how to contact we couldn't call somebody. My husband's number is the only number I remember everything else is stored in my phone, you know? So it's like, and that we don't have 411 anymore. Do you remember when they had
Yeah.
411?
Directory
You could just
assistance.
call information and be like, yeah, I need the number of Chuck Jones and Hearst, you know, and they'd pull it up.
I was in the courier business for a long time. And my first job was with 411, directory assistance.
Yeah.
They were printed, they had a law that directory assistants had to have the new numbers within either 24 or 48 hours from the time you got your phone number.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a printing company in Dallas that printed them, and I picked them up at 5 o'clock every morning
Wow.
and delivered them to the Southwestern Bell offices they had to go to. Because there was a law they had to have
Yeah.
the number available.
Yeah.
And now there's no directory assistance. But if people lost their, if cell towers went down, you know, think terrorist attack, how are you going to get hold of people?
I know.
How are you going to find your way around? No cell phones, no GPS.
You know, that's, you know, just kind of an idea. I'm always thinking of ideas. But, you know, an idea kind of pops in my head that might not be a bad idea for like a printing company to maybe do some type of thing like that with like the Yellow Pages or something that we used to have. You know, maybe not a personal directory of people's phone numbers, you know, because you don't really want to give out your phone number a lot these days. But like the Yellow Pages.
I don't know. If you didn't have cell service, do you have a landline?
Right, you'd have to stop at a store
I don't.
and ask somebody. I actually do have a landline.
Do you?
Yeah, I kept it because I built my house in 2005, and when I built my house, the company I was working for, the owner was very old school, and he didn't trust the digital faxing. So I have an old-timey fax machine still, which I kept it, but it plugged into that landline.
Uh-huh.
And then it ended up, after I was no longer employed there, I got a cordless phone. So when I lost my cell phone, I could call my cell phone from the cordless phone. So from the landline, I could find my cell phone. But yeah, I still do have it. You know, I could plug a phone into it right now and it would work.
But whose number do you have?
Yeah, exactly. My husband's, and that's it. And he never answers his phone.
Yeah, but his is a landline.
Right.
So if there was no cell phones,
Yeah, how would I call
you
you?
can, yeah,
911.
911 is all
That
you
would
can
be
call.
it.
You know, honestly, I thought we did pretty good before cell phones. I don't
Yeah.
remember ever having a problem not getting a hold of somebody, you know?
Yeah.
We
It's
actually we were talking about
Yeah,
that.
you wouldn't
too.
know that. You're not old enough for that.
I
Remember,
bet we were
remember
talking.
that.
We were talking about though. You know, like I remember when I was a little kid. You know, my parents were like, "Get out of the house, go play. You know, get off. You know, like anything. Like go play, go outside." And when the street lights come on, that's the time you're supposed to be home.
Yep.
They never knew where I was. They had no idea where I was, what I was doing. They just knew that if those lights came on and I wasn't home, then it was time to worry.
I know
Other than that,
we had better be where we told them we were going to
Right.
be, because they may want to come get us. And I remember one whipping I got where I said I was going somewhere and then I wasn't there.
oh yeah, I remember.
And they
getting a
came
lot
to
of
get
those.
me. And when I got home, my butt was theirs for a while.
Before I got involved in doing modeling and stuff, which I started that when I was 16. But before I did anything like that, I was in the rodeo club at school. And in order to maintain being in the rodeo club, you had to ride a bull. So on a Friday night, one time I went to Alta Vista Rodeo and I rode a steer. Well, my dad was a cowboy, and so he got wind of it. He heard that I was riding that night, and I got my ass whooped in front of all of my friends at the rodeo. My dad showed up, drug me out, and I got the worst ass whooping after riding a steer. But I got my ass
Your
whooped.
bud got tenderized, and then
Oh my God, he was so mad. But yeah, had I had a cell phone back then, they would have been able to be like, "Where are you?" Or they would have tracked me down and saw I was at the rodeo, and then,
Real
probably
quickly, my mom used to
would have
say
got on that bull.
on Saturdays when we were kids, that was her day to clean. And she always said, I don't care where you go, just
Get
don't
out."
stay home.
Just get out.
That's what they always said. I don't care where you go, just don't stay home.
I'm sweeping, mopping, vacuuming, and you're not going to mess it up while I'm doing it.
Get out of the way.
Well, enough about us old people reminiscing.
But it's fun.
But
to
I'm only
remember.
21, so I don't know where y'all are getting old people.
Yeah,
Well, Randy and I are older than that. So when's your next modeling gig?
I actually don't have anything lined up at the moment. I've been trying to adjust myself to the fact that this was the last weekend with my grandkids. They're moving into their own place, and they've lived with me for a very long time, so we're already having separation anxiety. And,
We or you?
well, my grandson is the closest to me because I can never have kids. I got him, my stepdaughter was pregnant when I met her. So, I've been with him since he was born. So, we're having a little bit of separation anxiety, but it's going to be a better move for them. They need to start their own family and have their own place and everything. It's just letting go of that, that hold and that bond that I have with him is hard. I just left his basketball game before I came over here. But, so now that I'm going to have a lot more free time, I'm going to be working a lot more with Randy, and we're going to be trying to start to promote Sinsual Magazine. So once again, I want to encourage a lot of girls to contact me. I have 5 Facebooks, and I have 5,000 friends on each one of them. So I'm really going to start, pounding the Facebooks, Instagrams, Snapchats, and I just want to get a lot of girls involved. And, and I want to help these girls, too, to realize that they're still beautiful. It doesn't matter if they're 35 or 50, or 18. I want to get the girls encouraged more to get involved with our magazine because it is classy, it's tasteful, and, nobody's going to look at it and go, oh, my God, what are you doing in that? It's a very upscale magazine. So I want to get some more girls involved in that.
So Randy, what's next on your side of it for?
Well, actually, I was talking to Glenn a little bit about this, and I haven't mentioned it to you, but something I'm thinking about doing also is 2 magazines. I'm thinking about doing a sensual magazine, which will be like bikinis, lingerie, things of this nature. And then also, we're going to have extremely sensual, which is going to be everything else, but to the tasteful side of it.
Right.
We're going to have topless,
A
we're
little
going to
more
have implied.
topless and just
Things
implied.
of that nature, So that's what's upcoming with us. I'm always looking for models. That's what Sherry's going to be helping a whole lot with.
Where do I sign up?
I would like to bring up too, we talked about we want to do one edition of the Girls of Rock.
Yeah.
There's so many pretty girls out there that are doing heavy metal and hard rock and stuff, so they might not want to present themselves as this soft, feminine, sexy, but they're still sexy. Even though they're not, promoting themselves as being a sex symbol or, like erotic, they are still sexy. So there's a lot of girls that I know that I've already been in contact with that are lead singers in the band, or they're guitar players or bass players or whatever. I would love to get them into the Women of Rock edition because they don't have to be topless. They can wear what they wear on stage, to kind of promote their band and also show that there's women in power that, and then the ones that do want to do the topless or bikinis or whatever they feel comfortable with, it'll just be an asset to the magazine as well.
I've seen pictures of some of them that they would have to cover up to be in the magazine versus what they wear on stage.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wear a thong and a veil and a bra, studded, designed and stuff. I mean, it's not just a bra and a thong and a belt, but, that is part of my band with Eva Cora, is it's a very theatrical, sexy, sensual band. Now, my husband just joined a band. It's called Blind in Texas. They're a WASP tribute band.
What?
A WASP tribute band. Do you remember the band WASP? They're very popular.
WASP.
You'll have
No.
to look them up if you haven't. They're really good.
Kind of back in the late 80s, weren't they?
Yeah,
somewhere in there.
she's the lead singer for that band. She's a very pretty girl, very very sexy girl. But she's her thing is she's doing a male. She's doing Blackie, and he was the lead singer for Wasp. So, but she wears buttless chaps on stage, so
Yeah.
she's still sexy
You know,
and
we were
pretty.
talking about that.
Yeah, so I would love to get her involved too. And then there's a lot of other girls, but I'm a lead singer in a band, so I would absolutely want to do like a rock and roll type.
Yeah.
It doesn't even really have to be rock either, Randy. We could do country, we could do rock, we could do
Ladies and music.
ladies of music.
Yeah.
Would kind of cover the whole spectrum of musicians, because there's so many pretty female musicians out there. I would love to do.
And that would just be one issue that we're going to do, and that's something I want to kind of reiterate about the magazine, is that, it's open to any lady
Right.
that would like to do this, Whether now, one thing I do want to say, it is rated 18 plus.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So,
We do want to
yeah.
reiterate that it's 18 and over.
Yeah.
We don't want any minors.
No, not at all. So, any model that would like to be published, that's, all they have to do is send us some pictures, let us look. And that's one thing I want to get more into also is with Glenn and yourself and myself is, when they send pictures in so we can go through them all, Fortunately, the people that have contributed has been Glenn Wilson, who just shoots everybody, I think, Got beautiful models that he works with also.
Absolutely.
Another gentleman, Don Ah, his last name is spelled A-U, and he was, he published these magazines before also. So, he shoots a lot of models more conservative to a degree. So that's what I'm saying, there's, you were talking about, we have something for everybody, that's what
Right.
the magazine's for. That's why I thought I'd try to do 2 of them,
Well, you can do as little as you want or as much as you want.
Yeah,
Whatever you feel comfortable with.
that's right.
And that's
Like a buffet.
yeah.
And one thing, this is not Hustler.
Right.
This is not going to be Larry Flint, no Hustler here.
No, not at all. And I know that you might not want to refer to it much, but this does kind of have a Playboy feel to it. I always felt like Playboy was very tasteful. I never felt like it was dirty or I loved Playboy.
For the articles, right?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
the articles.
Yeah.
For bathroom reading.
Yeah.
That's what my dad would always say. For bathroom reading. Those are for the bathroom reading. But and this does have that kind of feel to it because of the nature of what we're doing.
Well, I appreciate it. And that's something I want, I want a very good magazine that my goal with this eventually is like what Hefner, when he first started, he didn't know where Playboy was going to go. He only had like $75 when he started off with
Right.
it, He didn't think it'd ever get on some shelf. I mean, if you look back at some of the interviews he used to do and look where it went. Well, it took time to get there, Well, this one's going to take 2. You got to walk before you can run.
That's right.
But eventually, I really do. I hope to see this on shelves someday. I really do. I think we can. I think Sensual is a great name to me, but the way it's spelled, not S-E-N, but S-I-N. So that gives a little sexiness to the name.
A little devil.
Yeah, a little devil to it.
sin,
Yeah, devilish,
ritual. Yeah.
It's not just for everybody.
Right.
So anyway, that's where I'm hoping it'll go.
How do people get the magazine?
Right now you have to purchase it through MagCloud, who is the people that prints this. And if you go to my Instagram page, which is at sensual_magazine, follow the link, and that takes you right to where you can purchase the magazine. And I believe Sherry has that also.
I have
Yeah.
the link on my page too.
Yeah. And matter of fact, in the magazine, it's not in this one, but in the February issue, towards the back is a page that will always be there, and it says, for past issues, scan the QR code, and it'll come right up, and you can buy whichever one you want, you know.
You get all the girls that have been in it before, and
Yeah. And I think we're pretty reasonably priced. You know, it's magazines aren't cheap anymore, you know, just like concerts.
How much are magazines in general? I haven't bought one in.
Well, this one we sell for $24.95. I did a lot of research before this, and there's a lot of magazines out there that sell for upwards of $35 to $50. You know, and they're not any more than what mine is.
And I like the fact that on that link, it's almost crazy not to do the digital and the
But yeah, because you get the print. If you buy the print, you get the digital automatically.
Right.
But if you buy the digital only, it's $14.99. But you don't get the print.
Right.
You know.
So it's worth that extra few bucks to get something you
Yeah,
can hold on to
I agree.
and the digital. So
Yeah, put on the coffee table.
absolutely, yeah,
Yep.
you know, for all your friends and family to come
Yeah.
over.
For grandkids.
Yeah. One of those when the kids come, you're like, whoops.
Do you have a, I didn't notice it earlier. You want to see, do you have a centerfold?
No, I wanted to do that. We tried to do it with this one. Excuse me, I hit your microphone. We tried to do it with Sherry, but when he laid it out, it looked really good. It's, keep turning. One more, I think. Sorry, folks. This one right here. That was supposed to be the centerfold, okay? But if you notice, the legs are up a little higher than her body is, okay? Can you see how it's kind of off a little bit?
Yeah,
And
like right there in the center where the page kind of overlaps, the
Yeah.
legs overlap. Yeah.
so that's something, you know, maybe it got laid out wrong and they didn't get the idea of what we were trying to do. But that's what I do want to have is the centerfold. There aren't a lot of magazines yet that do what they call the trifold, which is what Playboy did. A centerfold to a magazine company is just that, you know.
Right.
And Playboy did the trifold, you know, even though that's not what they called it.
Could you,
Yeah, that's a great question.
do you do 2 pages and just fold it and insert it in the magazine?
Well, that's what I want to do. You know, I don't know if we can do that yet.
I got it.
Glenn probably knows more than I do, but or he'll know how we can do it, you know.
Here's
But
how you
that's
do
what
it.
I want to do eventually.
When you buy a hard copy of the magazine for an extra X number of dollars, you get a centerfold that hasn't been folded.
You know, like a poster, like
Yeah.
almost like just in the center of it. That's what I was thinking when you were saying that.
Yeah, that's a
but
good
not-
idea.
Not folded. I
Right.
mean, it'd be shipped, it'd be whatever twice this is,
Right.
size. So if that's 11 by 14, you get a 11 by 28. And, you know, it's all in a little box. And,
And then if they want to fold it and put it in the magazine, they can. If they don't
Yeah.
want to, then yeah, that's a good idea.
It is. That's a good idea. We'll have to think. We'll have to,
That is a,
Well,
that is
have
a really
to
good idea.
my
research on
job.
that.
Good ideas.
Good job. Good job.
It's your job.
You know, one thing I
Hey.
wanted to say also, MagCloud, when they send this out, because that's the company that sends it, you know, once you buy it, they put it together. They don't print it until you buy it. Okay?
Right.
That's how they work. But I want to say that when it comes to you, it's in a cardboard envelope, which is really nice. You remember the days of Playboy? It came in a plastic sack, and that
Right.
was it, you know?
Right.
I mean, you know, this one, that way, if somebody doesn't want you to know what you're getting,
They're
you
like
know?
black, a
Yeah.
black plastic
Yeah.
cover.
So, you know, they send it to you in a really nice cardboard envelope, what I'm
Right.
saying, you know, so that way
Right.
you're not like going, oh, what is that, you know? So anyway, I'm just saying that's something for Mag Club. But yeah, I like your idea. That's a good idea.
That is a good idea.
Definitely
I
want
like that
Sherry
too.
on a centerfold. No doubt about that. Who
I
wouldn't
would
want
love
that?
Well, that
I would
way,
love to do
you know,
that.
the guy would have it and could push pin it, stick it to the wall,
Right,
and it not have a crease in it
right.
from being folded.
You know, it's funny about what we were talking about because I remember as a kid, my dad, when you're talking about stacks of Playboys, you know, he was a card member and the Playboy Club, the whole 9 yards. But anyway, when you used to open them, it never failed that where the crease was something I was like, oh man, can't see what, you know.
Yeah, what's under the
It got in the way, you know, it's like creased it. And I was like, oh no, you know. But no, that's a good idea. Well, think about doing that.
Yeah, that is, I like that.
Matter of fact, when we do that, Sherry will be our first centerfold, if she wants to do that.
Of course.
Well,
always down.
before we get out of here, is there anything else you want to tell the audience up there?
No,
Except for the magazine?
By the way, have y'all even been listening to us? Everybody, I'm sure they're looking at Sherry.
No, they're
you
not.
know? Oh, I'm sure they are. Excuse me a second. Anyway, Sensual, please buy this. For us,
S-I-N.
for all of us, you know. Do what?
SINSUAL.
Yeah, it's SINSUAL, not the other one. And like I said, you can go to our Instagram. My Instagram is at sensual_magazine. And follow the link, and it'll take you right to purchase it.
And also, if you want to follow me on my social media, on my Facebook, it's Sherry Lennox Gutierrez. If you want to know how to spell that, because I know that's the next thing, it's Sherry, Lenox, and then Gutierrez is Gutierrez. And if you look up on Facebook, you'll see that there's like 5 or 6 different pages that I have. You can hit me up on any one of them. I do check them, you know, at least every 2 or 3 days. I check all of them. My main one, you know, you'll see that one, more comments and stuff on it. But yeah, if you want to just start following me on those pages, then I post everything that I do on those pages. So you'll be able to get to the magazine easily. And also, you know, for the girls, for you ladies that want to do it, you can through instant messenger. I know you like to use Instagram more. I'm more Facebook. He's more Instagram, so you can get a hold of us either way. But for the girls, you know, just, you don't have to do like a sexy bikini shot to send it to us, because, you know, we'll be able to tell, like, just by a regular picture. You know, just do a selfie, but send us some selfies of just you, and do a full body and do half, and you know, just do whatever you feel comfortable with. But we would like to encourage as many women as we can to send us selfies or any kind of modeling that they've done in the past, or just any way that we can see you, so that we can get you involved, because we want to get as many women as we can involved in the magazine.
I'm so disappointed. You said ladies, and here I was going to send you a selfie.
You know, at some point, and this is just an idea, but, you know, because I've had a couple of guys, you know, jokingly say, hey, can I be in your magazine? Because I put up a status on my Facebook, like, we're looking for new talent. And I had a couple of guys message me and say, hey, can you put me in your magazine? At some point, we might want to do a male version.
I've got your first model. That's not me.
There we go.
We could do a sensual male.
It's Paul Jackson.
Okay. So there we have. We could do a sensual male.
There's a
magazine,
possibility.
You know.
Because Paul has no shame.
Okay.
He'll do it in a heartbeat.
Okay.
He doesn't embarrass. And even if he did, you couldn't tell because he's black. And the red doesn't show up.
That's perfect. We don't have to put makeup.
I love you, Paul.
We don't have to do a lot of touch-up makeup or anything.
Well, I don't know about touch-up makeup with him. He's not. I'm not saying he's pretty.
But I would say that might not be an idea too far away to visit, is doing a male. You know, I know that
You could do an annual.
They had a Playgirl.
Yep.
You know, so
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah, we might do an edition that's just all guys. You know,
Just do a special edition.
Never know. I mean, you know.
No, there's all kinds of markets to tap into. We have lesbian, we have gay, we have trans, we have just about every kind of following with our band. And so, I'm open to all suggestions on the magazine because there's something sensual about everyone. So
Hey,
I'm sure we can put our heads together.
I'll give you 2 hours to find something sensual about me.
I don't need
So-
that long. You give me 5 minutes.
All right, folks. Well, there you have it. We got Sherry and Randy from Sinsual Magazine.
Don't forget to show our magazine.
Y'all check it out. And ladies, if you're interested, give Sherry a call.
Absolutely. And don't be scared.
She doesn't bite hard.
Yeah, I don't bite
Hard.
hard.
That's what I said. And it's Sherry Lennox Gutierrez.
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 Oh, well, if you do it the right way, it's Gutierrez. You got to roll those R's. I'm just learning that.
Do I look Spanish? Sorry.
I don't speak Spanish either, and I'm married to a Mexican, so.
If you do Sherry Lennox, Lenox, it'll probably suggest her.
Yeah.
So, all right, folks, thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you. Be sensual.